I pulled the trigger on the man who raised me, not to kill him, but to make him feel the fracture I'd carried in my bones since I was 12. The bullet tore through his knee like a confession he never wanted to give, and as he crumpled on the cold warehouse floor, his eyes, those same eyes that once promised me the world, widened in the kind of horror reserved for monsters meeting their mirrors. In that split second, with the echo of the shot still ringing in my ears like a verdict, I wondered if I'd just avenged my family or damned my own soul to the same empty grave they'd left me in. It started in the Rust Belt ghost town of Gary, Indiana, back when the mills still coughed out smoke like dying breaths. And bankruptcy wasn't just a word, it was a family heirloom passed down like a curse. I was Madeline Harper then, a scrawny kid with braids and a backpack full of dreams that didn't include eviction notices. My parents, Tom and Elena, weren't saints, but they were mine. Dad with his calloused hands from the steel plant, Mom with her laugh that could cut through the diner's grease like sunlight. We weren't rich, hell. We weren't even scraping by, but we had each other. Crammed into a 2-bedroom shotgun house on the edge of town where the train tracks hummed lullabies at night. The fall came swift as a heart attack. One Tuesday in '03, the plant laid off half the line, including Dad. Bills piled up like snowdrifts, and then the bank foreclosed. I remember the night they sat me down at the Formica kitchen table, Mom's hands trembling as she pushed a plate of half-burnt mac and cheese my way. "We're going to California, Maddie," Dad said, his voice cracking like cheap plywood. "Start fresh. But we can't take you right now. It's too much. Too much." Those words lodged in my throat like fishbones. They hugged me goodbye the next morning, Dad's stubble scratching my cheek, Mom's perfume, cheap lavender from the drugstore, clinging to my shirt like a ghost. I watched their taillights fade down the cracked driveway, the U-Haul trailer rattling like bones. Enter Uncle Ray, my father's older brother, the golden boy who'd skipped town for Chicago after high school, chasing stock tips and skyscrapers. He showed up 2 days later in a leased Cadillac, all pressed khakis and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Your folks called me, kiddo," he said, ruffling my hair like I was still 5. "Said they needed time to get on their feet. Until then, you're with me." I didn't question it. Kids don't when the alternative is foster care. Ray bundled me into the car, the Gary skyline shrinking in the rearview, and we headed east to the Windy City, where the air smelled like money and regret. Chicago swallowed me whole. Ray lived in a high-rise in the Loop, the kind with doormen who nodded like they knew your secrets. He enrolled me in a private school on the north side, bought me clothes that itched with newness, and told me stories about how he'd clawed his way up from the same Indiana dirt. "Family's everything, Maddie," he'd say over takeout Thai, his eyes gleaming under the track lighting. "We Harpers stick together. Your folks, they're just lost. But I'll fix it." He did, in ways I didn't see coming. Checks arrived for the house back home. Rent, utilities, keeping the lights on in an empty place. Ray said it was his way of buying time, but I later learned it was a leash, tethering Mom and Dad to silence. High school blurred into a haze of AP classes and awkward crushes. I was the scholarship girl, the one with the faint accent that marked me as outsider. Ray was my rock, parent-teacher conferences, prom tickets. Even that time I got my period in algebra and he showed up with tampons and a pint of Ben and Jerry's. He never remarried after Aunt Linda's overdose. Pills and vodka. He'd whisper, shaking his head, and I filled that void. His little shadow, as he called me. College came on a full ride to Northwestern. Studying finance because Ray said it was practical. Summers. I interned at his firm, Harper Investments, a boutique hedge fund he'd built from nothing. Or so he claimed. Clients loved him. Silver-haired execs from the Merc. Tech bros from Silicon Prairie. All hanging on his charm like it was gospel. But cracks spiderwebbed early. My junior year, a letter arrived, postmarked from Fresno. Mom's shaky cursive on the envelope. We miss you, baby girl.
Things are better now.
Come visit. I showed Ray, heart pounding like a bass drum. He read it slow, then folded it back into my hand. They're clean now?
Good.
But Maddie, they've got their lives. You and me, we're building something real here. I nodded, swallowing the ache, because he was right, we were. Or so I thought. The secret unraveled on my 25th birthday. In a conference room overlooking Lake Michigan, the water churning gray as my mood. Ray had thrown a bash at his penthouse, caviar from drones-delivered platters, a string quartet mangling Springsteen covers. I was tipsy on Veuve, laughing with his partners, guys like Victor Lang, the shark from Goldman who jumped ship to Ray's crew, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Voicemail. Madeline Harper? This is Detective Ruiz. Gary PD. Call back, Ree. Your father's file. Dad's file? He'd vanished from my life like smoke. Last I'd heard from Mom in a Christmas card 3 years back, saying he'd found work in Reno. I slipped into Ray's study, the city lights mocking me through floor-to-ceiling glass. Ruiz's voice was gravel. Cold case on Thomas Harper. Suspected embezzlement from the plant, tied to the bankruptcy. Your uncle bailed the family out, but we think he had a hand in tipping the feds. Your dad skipped town to avoid charges. Ring any bells? Embezzlement? Dad? He couldn't balance a checkbook. I hung up, pulse hammering, and that's when I saw it. The bottom drawer of Ray's desk. Unlocked for once. A fat accordion file labeled Harper, Contingency. Inside, bank statements. Forged ledgers. Emails from Ray to a PI in Indiana dated weeks before the layoffs. Push the narrative on Tom. Make it stick. Elena will fold. Photos too, Dad. Caught slipping cash from a mill safe. Grainy shots that screamed setup. And a notarized letter from Mom. Dated the day they left. We did it for her future. Ray promised to care for Maddie if we took the fall. Betrayal isn't a slap, it's a slow bleed. Ray hadn't saved us. He'd engineered the collapse. He'd funneled mill funds through Dad's name. A shell game to cover his own early trades gone south. When the heat came, he pinned it on his brother, watched Tom and Elena run like rats, and claimed me as the prize, the dutiful niece, molded into his empire's heir. I'd signed off on deals without knowing the blood on the ink, clients who'd lost nests to Ray's strategies, whispers of SEC probes he dodged by throwing subordinates under buses. And me, I'd borne the mistake, the abandonment scar, thinking it was fate. All for his family legacy. I confronted him that night, after the party's dregs cleared out. He was nursing a scotch in the den, tie loosened, humming American Pie. Uncle Ray, I said, voice steady as rebar, holding up the file like a smoking gun. His face didn't crumple, it sharpened, like a blade unsheathing. Maddie, sweetheart. You weren't supposed to. He trailed off, setting the glass down with deliberate calm. It was mercy. Your folks were drowning booze. Debts. That godforsaken town. I gave them an out. Gave you one too. Mercy? I laughed. Bitter as battery acid. You framed Dad for your screw-ups. Left me to rot in guilt, thinking they hated me enough to leave. He stood, slow, hands open like a preacher. And look at you now. Northwestern grad, junior partner at 25. Board seats in your future. Tom and Elena? They'd have dragged you down, fought over scraps till you were as broken as them.
His eyes
Those liars' eyes.
softened.
I did it for you.
Kiddo.
Always have. I walked out into the November chill, the loop's neon blurring through tears I wouldn't let fall. Mercy?
No.
It was possession. Ray had stolen my family, rewritten my origin story, and now expected gratitude. But gratitude's a chain, and I'd just found the key. Revenge wasn't a spark, it was a blueprint. I dismantle his world brick by crooked brick. Make him taste the isolation he'd gifted me. Not with fists or feds, but with the only currency he understood, power. And in America, power's just another word for betrayal. The planning phase was a masterclass in shadows. I didn't quit Harper Investments, no. That'd be too clean. I doubled down, volunteering for the high-stakes audits, the client poachings, all while building my dossier. Late nights in the firm library, cross-referencing Ray's trades against old mill records I'd pulled from Gary's dusty archives. Patterns emerged, a trail of insider tips funneled through Shell Core. Kickbacks from Victor Lang's old Goldman network. Ray's genius was just larceny in a Brooks Brothers suit. First move, allies. Victor was the low-hanging fruit, mid-40s, divorced, with a weakness for red wine and redheads. I played the ingenue at the firm holiday mixer, all wide eyes and subtle brushes of his arm. Ray's pushing me hard. I'd sigh over oysters at Shaw's Crab House. Says I'm the future.
But
You know how he burns through people. Victor bit. Spilling beans over bourbon. Ray's habit of retiring partners who'd gotten too nosy. Like poor Eddie Klein, who'd resigned after questioning a Cayman account. Your uncle's a wizard.
Maddie.
But wizards have wands that snap. By spring, Victor was mine, discreet lunches turning to encrypted emails, feeding the access codes to Ray's private server. But Victor was a stepping stone. The real flip came with Lena Voss, Ray's executive assistant and gatekeeper extraordinaire. Lena was still 50-something, buzz cut, ex-Marine who'd traded fatigues for spreadsheets. She'd been with Ray since the Chicago days, loyal as a vault. I cracked her over coffee at Intelligentsia, not with seduction but shared scars. My parents ditched me too, I confessed, stirring oat milk into my latte. Bankruptcy hit, and poof, gone. Ray pulled me out, but sometimes I wonder if I'm just filling a hole. Lena's mask slipped, just a fraction. Ray's got ghosts.
Girl.
Lost his own folks young, war vet dad. OD mom. Makes him cling. 2 lattes later. She was venting. Ray's paranoia. The contingency files on everyone, including me. He calls you his legacy project. Creeps me out. Lena became my whisper network. Slipping these schedules. Warning of audits. In return, a promise of equity in the new firm I'd built from Ray's ashes. Controversy crept in early. My first real cut, a client, Harold Hal Whitaker, a steel magnate from back home who'd lost his shirt to one of Ray's sure things a decade prior. How was Ray's white whale, big fish, bigger grudge? I reached out via LinkedIn, anonymous at first. Know what happened to the Gary Mill funds? Your losses were no accident.
He bit.
Hard. suing Harper Investments for fraud on a tip I'd laundered through a burner lawyer. The headlines hit the Trib. Hedge fund heirloom? Harper Investments sued in embezzlement echo. Ray spun in the boardroom. Bad apple client. We'll settle, but the SEC sniff test followed. Freezing assets. I watched him age 5 years overnight. Barking at juniors. Popping Xanax like Tic Tacs. Guilt gnawed.
Though.
Hal's suit dragged innocents. Clerks who'd lose jobs. Victor who'd sweat audits. Was I any better? Wielding betrayal like a badge?
Nights.
I'd pace my Wicker Park walk-up. The L train rattling past like judgment. Ray called. Voice paternal. Tough times? Maddie. Lean on me. I'd murmur agreement. Then ghost. Plodding deeper. Next, the personal gut punch. I trace Mom and Dad to a trailer park in Bakersfield. Meth scars on Dad's arms. Mom waitressing doubles. A prepaid visa for bus tickets. A reunion in a dingy Denny's. He poisoned us against you, Mom sobbed, clutching my hands. Said you'd hate us if you knew.
Dad.
Hollow-eyed, Ray promised to bury the evidence if we vanished. For your sake. I left them $5,000 and a number, untraceable, vowing to exhume the truth. But as I boarded the flight back, doubt coiled. Had Ray saved me from their spiral? Or just rewritten the crash? By summer, the noose tightened. Lena fed me Ray's calendar, a gala at the Art Institute, schmoozing a senator for deregulation favors. I crashed it. Vintage gown from a thrift flip, cornering the polls Senator Hale. A blowhard from downstate, with hypotheticals on campaign finance. What if a donor's funds traced to a framed relative? Hypothetically. Hale blanched, later pulling Ray aside for a tense chat. Ray's retaliation was swift, demoting Victor to grunt work, sidelining Lena for performance. He summoned me to his office. The lake storm tossed outside. What's your game? Niece, he growled. No more, sweetheart. I met his stare. Ice for ice. Just auditing the family books. Uncle. Turns out, Mercy has a receipt. The flip that broke him, or so I thought, was internal. I leaked the contingency file to the board. Not all. Just enough. Redacted emails implicating Ray in the mill fraud. Anonymized through Victor's proxy. The vote was 7-3. Ray steps back as CEO. Me interim. Cheers in the conference room masked the rot. Board members I'd wined and dined. Now pocketing my favors. Ray didn't rage. He evaporated. Holed up in his penthouse. Radio silence. Victor toasted me at Ruth's Chris. To the Queen. Lena slipped me a key fob, his safe. End it. But as I drove to the loop that night, rain sheeting the windshield, the divide cracked wide. Was I Queen, or just the blade? Ray's mercy echoed. Had he shielded me from a broken home? Or was I torching innocence to cauterize my own wound? The warehouse on the south side was Ray's bolt hole. A relic from his early days. Chain link and concrete. Reeking of oil and old money. I'd tailed him there twice. Watching him pace like a caged wolf. Phone glued to ear. Liquidating what he could.
Tonight.
Under a moonless sky. I parked 2 blocks out. Glock, his own. Lifted from the study safe, in my coat pocket. Not to kill. America doesn't do tidy executions.
No.
This was theater. The kind that leaves scars deeper than lead. I slipped through the side door. The lock clicking like a guilty verdict. Ray was at a scarred desk. Ledger open. Tumbler of bourbon sweating rings. He didn't startle, almost like he'd scripted it. Knew you'd come. Maddie. His voice was whiskey rough, eyes bloodshot but sharp. Family reunion? I leveled the gun, steady as my heartbeat. Tell me why. The words hung, heavy.
He leaned back, chair creaking.
Why the frame? Why the lies? Ray sighed, long and theatrical, then spilled, not confession, but calculus. Tom was weak. Always was. The mill gig? He skimmed for your braces. Maddie, your college fund. Hidden in the safe. I covered it. But when my trades tanked,
I
redirected. Made him the fall guy. Your mom? She knew. Begged me to take you. Said they'd drag you into the muck. He paused.
sipping.
I built this for us. You think Chicago's forgiving? Without me, you'd be slinging hash and Gary. Knocked up by some mill rat. Lies layered on half-truths. I stepped closer, barrel kissing his knee. You stole my parents. Made me your puppet. His laugh was bitter. Puppet? You're the sharpest knife I own.
But yeah,
I played God. Sue me or shoot. The trigger squeezed. Deliberate. The shot bloomed. Fabric shredding. Bone crunching. Ray howled. Collapsing. Clutching the ruin. Blood pooled. Dark as ink. But no arterial spray, just enough to paint the point. As sirens wailed distant, Lena's anonymous tip, timed perfect, I knelt, whispering the secret I'd unearthed deepest. Mom's letter wasn't plea, it was threat. Ray, if you touch her, we go public. He'd ignored it.
but now?
Your legacy was always leverage. Turns out, even monsters bleed. He gasped, face ashen. Maddie. Wait. But I was already dialing Ruiz. The Gary cold case thawing in real time. Cuffs later. Headlines would scream, heiress topples tycoon in family fraud. Victor would spin it heroic, Lena retire fat. Mom and Dad? I'd wire more. Maybe visit. Justice? In America, it's just the score settled uneven. Except the twist, the one that lodged like shrapnel. As paramedics swarmed, Ray's eyes locked mine. Not hate, but pity. You think this ends it? Check the safe again. Kiddo. In the chaos. I did. Later that night. Alone in the penthouse. Not cash or codes, but a thumb drive. Videos. Grainy from '03. Dad. Not skimming for me but for Ray. Oh, you. Brother. He'd slur to the camera, handing envelopes in a dive bar.
Mom.
Nodding. We'll pay back. Just help with the girl. Ray hadn't framed them. They'd borrowed from his pot, insider cash he'd skimmed first, to fund a dream house. A fresh start. When it blew, Dad panicked. Cooked books to cover.
And Ray.
Cleaned up. Took the hit on his trades solo. Pinned the mess on no one. Just let the abandonment play out as their escape. I'd avenged ghosts that weren't mine. Ray's mercy was real. He'd shouldered the fraud. Raised me clean. Built the empire to launder guilt. My revenge? It gutted the firm. Scattered allies. Left Mom and Dad, innocent in their desperation, exposed in depositions. Victor bolted with secrets. Lena sued for harassment. And me, interim CEO of Rubble, staring at Lake Michigan, wondering if the real betrayal was the mirror. In the end, Ray walked, plea deal. House arrest in a Gold Coast condo. He sent one letter. Family's messy. Maddie. But blood's thicker than lead. Call if you need. I burned it, but kept the drive. Happy ending? Tragic farce? You tell me. America loves a debate. And I've got the scars to fuel it.